The moment the judge called the Brown family case to order, every eye in the courtroom locked on Cody. Because the secret he was about to reveal wasn't just going to break the silence. It was going to break someone's heart. The moment the judge called the Brown family case to order, the entire courtroom shifted as if the air itself had become heavier. The wooden benches creaked under the weight of spectators leaning forward, waiting for the first crack in a family that once stood on television, smiling, cooking, laughing, and pretending everything was fine. But today, under the harsh fluorescent lights and the cold stare of the law, nothing was fine. And everyone knew it the second Cody Brown walked in. His steps were stiff, deliberate, like each foot had to fight its way through cement. His jaw was locked tight, lips pressed into a line sharp enough to cut glass. Even before he reached the front table, even before he sat opposite the wives who once swore they were a united front, his presence pulled every ounce of warmth out of the room. Christine saw it first. She always did. She leaned back, arms folded tightly over her chest, studying him the way a person studies a storm forming far out on the horizon. At first, it's distant, detached, but you can already feel the cold wind creeping in. Her breath wavered in her throat, then steadied into the calm she'd been practicing for weeks. She had to look strong. She had to look prepared, even if, deep inside, she wasn't sure she was. Mary sat perfectly still beside her, hands clasped in her lap, knuckles pressed white. She didn't blink. She didn't move. She didn't even acknowledge when the clerk dropped a stack of files that slapped loudly against the floor. Her eyes were glued to Cody, watching not the man she married decades ago, but the stranger shaped by years of resentment and quiet pain. Robyn sat further down the line, but her posture was different, protective, trembling. She kept her hands curled around the straps of her purse, like holding on to something would ground her. Her eyes darted between the judge, the wives, and Cody, as if searching for the safest place to look. But there was no safe place today. Janelle, on the other hand, sat forward, shoulders squared, lips parted, eyes hard. She was done pretending, done smoothing over conflict, done swallowing her own voice. She looked ready, not for closure, not for peace, but for truth. Raw, cutting truth. And then there was silence, heavy, waiting, expectant, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. A silence so thick you could almost hear hearts beating. And that's when you realize every truth in this room is about to collide, and nothing will survive untouched. Judge Holloway, an older woman with steel gray hair and an expression carved by decades of witnessing broken families, tapped her pen twice. A warning, a signal, the beginning of the end. This court is now in session, she said, her voice low but commanding. The matter before us concerns the Brown family, specifically the testimony regarding financial disputes, custody concerns, and allegations of emotional harm. The words hung in the air like smoke. Custody, financial disputes, emotional harm. Words the Browns never wanted to hear in the same sentence, especially not under oath. Cody swallowed, his Adam's apple jerking in a way that betrayed his nerves. He tried to hide it, smoothing his tie, straightening his papers, pretending everything was under control. But the wives saw through it instantly. They always had. They could read him like a map. Every twitch, every shift, every attempt to look composed. Christine leaned to the side, whispering just loud enough for the microphones to catch it. He's already nervous. The crowd murmured. Cody's eyes snapped toward her, sharp and defensive. But then his gaze landed on Robyn, softer, almost pleading. And Robyn looked away. The bailiff stepped forward. "Mr. Brown, please take the stand." Cody froze. He hadn't expected to be called first. His plan, if he even had one, was falling apart before he'd spoken a single word. He turned toward his attorney, who subtly nodded. There was no backing out now. No stalling, no hiding. He nodded stiffly, stood, and walked to the witness stand. Every step echoed. Every step felt heavier than the last. The judge watched him carefully. So did the jury. So did everyone. But no one watched him harder than the 4 women who once promised to spend their lives with him. He took the oath, raising his right hand. His voice was tight when he said, "I do." Then he sat, spine straight, hands folded, eyes forward, waiting. The attorney approached. "Mr. Brown, can you explain to the court why you believe this separation has led to legal complications?" Cody exhaled, slow and shaky. "This family," he began, voice trembling with exhaustion, "has survived more storms than anyone will ever understand. But the real complications didn't come from separation. They came from secrets." Gasps rippled through the room. The wives stiffened. Secrets? He wasn't supposed to start with that. Even his attorney looked startled. But Cody kept going. "Over the last few years," he continued, "things happened behind closed doors. Agreements were made, promises were broken, and choices were taken out of my hands. I'm not saying I'm innocent. I'm not saying I was perfect. But I wasn't alone in the decisions that broke this family." Christine's jaw tightened. Mary's eyes dropped to the floor. Robyn blinked rapidly, fighting tears. Janelle didn't move. She didn't have to. Everyone already knew she was the one waiting for the truth to finally spill out. Because sometimes the truth doesn't just hurt. It shatters every lie ever told to protect it. The attorney cleared his throat. "Mr. Brown, can you clarify what you mean by choices taken out of your hands?" Cody hesitated. He looked right at Christine, and Christine didn't look away. For a moment, something flickered between them. Old love, old pain, old understanding, something that used to bind them together. Something that died slowly, silently, long before this courtroom. Cody dropped his eyes. "Christine made financial decisions behind my back," he said quietly. "Decisions that affected all of us. That's part of why we're here." Christine's chair screeched back as she stood, furious. "You don't get to twist this, Cody." The judge slammed her gavel. "Mrs. Brown, you will sit down." But Christine wasn't done. She leaned across the table, eyes burning. "You left us long before I ever made a single financial move. You left all of us emotionally. Don't act like you were blindsided." Cody's lips parted. For once, he had no reply. Christine slowly lowered herself back into her chair, chest rising and falling with the force of years' worth of unsaid words. The judge narrowed her eyes. "We will maintain order, or we will adjourn." Silence returned. Thick, tense, electric. The attorney continued softly. "Mr. Brown, do you believe the wives intentionally acted against your interests?" Cody hesitated again. Every wife leaned forward. This was the moment. "Yes," he said finally. A collective gasp filled the courtroom. Robyn covered her mouth, eyes wide. Mary swallowed hard, a tear escaping despite her best effort. Janelle clenched her jaw so tight her teeth almost cracked. Christine didn't look shocked, just tired. Tired in a way only someone who's been fighting too long can be, and you can feel it. This story is only beginning to unravel, and every new truth is going to cut deeper than the last. The attorney stepped aside. No further questions. But the judge leaned forward, voice sharp. "Mr. Brown, before we proceed, there is one more matter. The sealed letter submitted as evidence by Mrs. Brown." The room tensed. Every wife froze. And Cody? He went pale. That letter. The one Christine placed on the table days ago. The one she said would speak for itself. The judge lifted it slowly, then looked directly at Cody. "We will open this letter in Section 2, she announced. "Court is adjourned until then." Gasps erupted. Chairs scraped. Wives whispered frantically, and Cody sat completely still. Eyes wide, lips trembling, like he already knew exactly what was in that letter, and that it was going to destroy him. The second the gavel struck and court reconvened, the atmosphere changed. It wasn't just tense, it was suffocating. People filed back into the courtroom in tight, breathless clusters, whispering like they were afraid the walls themselves would overhear. Even the air felt heavier, as if pulled down by the weight of something that had been kept hidden far too long. And as the judge adjusted her glasses, glancing down at the sealed evidence envelope Christine had submitted, no one, not a single soul, moved. Because there was something different in the room now. Something colder, something sharper, the kind of feeling you get when you know a storm is about to break, and it's aimed directly at someone who thought they'd be safe in the shadows. Robyn sat stiff, one hand gripping the table, the other frozen midair, as if she'd forgotten how to breathe. Her eyes kept darting toward the envelope on the judge's desk. Not Christine, not Cody, not the attorney. That envelope. Her worst fear had a shape now. A weight. A presence. Across from her, Christine watched quietly. Hands folded, shoulders relaxed in a way that was almost unsettling. Because Christine wasn't anxious anymore. She wasn't angry. She wasn't even sad. No, she looked like someone who had already accepted whatever storm was coming and was ready to let it burn through the room. Meanwhile, Cody didn't blink. Not once. He'd been staring at that envelope since the moment he walked in, as if he knew it contained something meant to unravel him too. He sat rigid, breath shallow, mind racing faster than he could hide. He'd expected Christine to come with paperwork, bank records, maybe text messages, but a sealed file? A sealed file from Christine? That was not part of his plan. And whatever was inside, it was about to explode in the one place Robyn prayed it never would. Because the secret coming out now wasn't just going to destroy trust. It was going to rewrite everything they thought they knew about the family. Judge Holloway cleared her throat and lifted the envelope. This document was submitted confidentially by Mrs. Christine Brown, with the request to have it reviewed in open court. Does counsel have any objections before we proceed? Cody's attorney rose halfway, then slowly sat back down. He couldn't object, not without looking suspicious. Robyn's attorney looked like she wanted to speak, but Robyn shot her a tiny, panicked shake of the head. Speaking would only make it worse. No one objected. The judge slit open the envelope with a silver letter opener, sliding out a cluster of papers that had been folded with meticulous care. Even the sound of the paper brushing against itself felt loud. She skimmed the first page. Her eyebrows shot up. Then slowly, she exhaled. Mrs. Brown, she said, turning toward Christine, this document states that you're submitting a file labeled Personal Records, Robyn Brown. Could you explain how you came into possession of this file? Robyn's entire body jolted. What file? She whispered, voice cracking. But Christine didn't look at her. She looked at Cody. Cody left it in my storage unit years ago. Christine said softly. He thought I wouldn't look through the boxes when we separated. But I did. The crowd erupted with gasps. Robyn's hand flew to her mouth. Cody's face drained completely of color, like he was watching a nightmare he thought would stay buried. The judge lifted the second page, eyes narrowing. This file appears to include financial records, personal notes, and a copy of a legal application from over a decade ago? Robyn's breath hitched. No, please. Her voice shook uncontrollably. She reached for her attorney, fingers trembling so badly she could barely make contact. But the judge kept reading. The silence felt like a scream waiting to happen. Finally, she spoke. The file includes evidence suggesting that Mrs. Robyn Brown was preparing to file for sole legal custody of all her children years before you officially separated from the family. The room detonated. A wave of shock rippled across every face, every whisper turning into stunned disbelief. Even the air seemed to lurch. Christine's eyes flickered with pain, but not surprise. Because she'd known. She'd read every word in that file. She'd held on to this truth quietly, waiting for the moment when the damage caused by silence would be worse than the damage caused by revealing it. Mary stared at Robyn like she'd never seen her before. You were planning, even back then? Robyn shook her head violently, tears spilling. No, that's not. It wasn't. I didn't. But her voice kept breaking, as if even her own throat rejected the lie. Janelle leaned forward, hands flat on the table, eyes locked on Robyn with a clarity that cut through every excuse. You were going to take the kids and leave us. Robyn slammed her hand onto the table. I wasn't. I swear I wasn't. Her voice cracked so loud the bailiff flinched, but Cody didn't speak. He didn't defend her. He didn't move. He looked like a man frozen in a moment where every escape door had suddenly sealed shut. Because deep down, every person in that courtroom knew secrets don't stay buried forever, especially not the ones that can tear a family apart. Judge Holloway lifted the next page. There is also a list of expenses, including payments made to a private attorney and a childcare consultant, dated years prior to your public involvement with the family. Robyn covered her face, sobbing hard now. Not the quiet, trembling tears she showed on camera. This was raw, panicked, desperate, the kind of crying that comes from fear, not sadness. Christine watched her, voice quiet but unwavering. You were planning your escape while we were fighting to keep the family together? Robyn shook her head, words tumbling out in broken pieces. It wasn't like that. Cody, tell them it wasn't. Cody didn't even look at her. He stared at the table as if something inside him had cracked open, spilling truth everywhere. He looked defeated, lost, maybe even guilty. Finally, he spoke, very softly. I didn't. No, she kept the file. Robyn choked. Cody, please. But he didn't look at her. He couldn't. Christine closed her eyes. She'd waited years to hear him admit even that much. The judge continued reading. There is also a handwritten note addressed to my future attorney. Robyn let out a strangled scream. Stop. Please stop. Her attorney stood quickly. Your Honor, I request that these documents be reviewed privately. This is personal, irrelevant to the current accusations. It is absolutely relevant, Christine cut in sharply. Because while the rest of us were trying to build a family, Robyn was preparing to break away from it. And Cody was helping her, whether he admits it or not. Gasps echoed again. And this time Cody flinched. Mary's voice broke the tension, quiet but trembling. Were we ever real to you, Robyn? Robyn sobbed harder, shaking her head frantically. Yes, yes. I loved all of you. I still do. I wasn't leaving. I was scared. She collapsed into her hands, shoulders quaking. Scared of what? Janelle asked, her voice low and sharp. Robyn looked up slowly, tears streaking down her face, mascara smearing like bruises beneath her eyes. Of losing him, she whispered. Of losing everything. Silence. Thick, heavy, devouring. Not a single person could speak after that. Because for the first time, Robyn wasn't playing the victim. She was admitting the truth. That her fear, her desperation, her need to hold on to Cody at any cost was so strong she'd built a plan to protect herself before she ever joined the family. A plan no one else knew about. A plan that made every wife feel like the love they'd shared had been nothing but a stage for a private agenda. And when the truth you fear the most finally steps into the light, it doesn't just expose you, it exposes everyone around you. Judge Holloway set the file down. We will take a 15-minute recess before moving to cross-examination. When we return, I will ask Mrs. Brown to clarify these documents. Robyn's breath caught. Clarify? The judge nodded. Yes, under oath. Robyn froze completely. Cody didn't move to comfort her. The wives didn't look away. The entire courtroom was silent as she realized the moment she'd feared for over a decade was finally here. She thought the file was forgotten. She thought the file was lost. She thought no one would ever see it again. But now the whole world would. The bailiff called for recess, and as people began to stand, whispers exploding around the room, Robyn turned to Cody with trembling lips. Why didn't you protect me? She whispered. Cody looked at her with hollow eyes. Because, he said quietly, I didn't know what you were protecting yourself from. And for the first time, Robyn had no answer. The courtroom returned from recess with a charged energy, the kind that makes every heartbeat sound like a drum in your ears. Robyn sat frozen, staring at the judge as if the gavel might strike her directly. Every whisper, every shuffle of papers, every squeak of shoes against the polished floor felt amplified, like the walls were closing in. She could hear the silent judgment in the eyes of the wives. Christine's calculated gaze, Janelle's sharp, accusatory stare, Mary's mixture of fear and disbelief, and she realized, with a cold twist of panic, that nothing she'd done could make them understand her choices now. Cody sat next to her, shoulders slumped, head tilted slightly toward the table. He looked older, defeated, and broken in a way no one had ever seen on their cameras or behind closed doors. His voice, when he finally spoke, was barely above a whisper. "Robyn, this wasn't supposed to happen like this." Robyn shook her head. "No, Cody. No one ever wanted it to happen. But it did." The judge's gavel came down again, sharp and unyielding. "We will now proceed with cross-examination regarding the documents submitted by Mrs. Christine Brown. Mrs. Robyn Brown, please come forward." Her legs felt like lead as she rose. Every step toward the stand was a step into a spotlight she hadn't asked for, and as she turned to look at the wives, she could see the fire in their eyes. Christine's stare was ice cold, measured, calculated, like a predator watching its prey make the fatal mistake of moving. Mary's gaze was more fragile, questioning, almost pleading, as if silently asking, "Why, Robyn? Why did you keep this from all of us?" Janelle's look wasn't soft. It wasn't understanding. It was pure scrutiny. Every inch of her body screamed, "I am ready for the truth, no matter how brutal it is." Robyn took her seat at the witness stand, hands trembling. The microphone caught every small movement, the scratch of her fingers against the table, the quick inhale as she prepared herself. She could feel the weight of every eye, every camera lens, every whispered judgment pressing down on her chest. Sometimes, the truth doesn't just hurt the one who carries it, it rips through everyone around them. The prosecutor leaned in, his tone professional but pointed, slicing through the tension like a knife. "Mrs. Brown, can you explain the contents of this file submitted by Christine Brown?" Robyn swallowed hard. Her voice came out shaky, uneven. It was never meant to hurt anyone. I was scared. I didn't want to lose my family. I thought, if I prepared, if I planned, maybe..." Her words trailed off, a tremor of panic making them almost inaudible. "Maybe what?" the prosecutor pressed. Robyn's eyes darted toward Cody. He didn't meet her gaze. He couldn't. "Maybe I could protect everyone and myself at the same time," she whispered, barely audible, but the room was silent enough for everyone to catch it. Christine leaned forward, voice sharp and unwavering. "Protect everyone? Or protect yourself at the expense of all of us? At the expense of your sisters in this family? At the expense of the children?" Robyn flinched, tears forming. "I didn't know how else. I didn't know another way. I love them. I love all of them." The room held its breath. Even the judge leaned slightly forward, the air thick with the unspoken tension of years of hidden feelings now exposed under fluorescent courtroom light. Secrets have a way of choosing their own moment to surface. And when they do, they consume everything in their path. The prosecutor continued, pulling a highlighted page from the file. "Mrs. Brown, this document details your plan to consult legal counsel for sole custody of the children years before the family publicly separated. How do you reconcile this with your statements of unity and love?" Robyn's hands shook so badly she had to grip the edge of the stand to keep from falling. I didn't know how else to protect them. I didn't want them to be torn apart by conflicts I couldn't control. I thought, maybe if I had a plan, I could prevent more damage." Janelle's jaw tightened. Prevent damage? Or manipulate the family in a way that served your own interests first? The accusation hit Robyn like a physical blow. Her face turned pale. She opened her mouth to respond, but couldn't form the words. The courtroom was electric, every observer leaning forward, every heartbeat caught in that tense silence, waiting for the implosion of emotion. Cody finally spoke. "Robyn, you did what you thought was right, but it's complicated, and it hurts." His voice was quiet, barely strong enough to reach her, but it carried a weight of guilt and exhaustion. "We all thought we were protecting the family, but we were protecting ourselves in different ways." Mary gasped softly, covering her mouth with trembling hands. Her eyes filled with tears. "How can we trust any of you?" she whispered. Robyn's head fell into her hands. I don't know, she admitted. The room was still, holding the collective breath of every observer. The judge's voice cut through the silence. Mrs. Brown, you must understand the gravity of this revelation. These documents could fundamentally alter custody arrangements and family obligations. Were there other communications or plans kept from the other wives? Robyn's heart pounded. She wanted to cry out, to beg for forgiveness, but no words could undo what had been done. Yes, there were emails, notes, reminders I kept to myself. I thought I was preventing chaos, but now I see I only caused more pain. Christine's eyes softened slightly, but the sharpness remained. You always think your fear justifies your actions, Robyn. But fear isn't a shield. It's a weapon. And it's been aimed at everyone here for too long. Because when fear drives your choices, it can cut deeper than any knife. The prosecutor leaned closer. Mrs. Brown, were these actions coordinated with Mr. Brown? Robyn's voice faltered. I don't know. Not intentionally. I thought I was alone in this, but maybe some of the decisions, maybe... She trailed off, shaking her head in confusion and shame. Cody glanced at her, silently urging her to finish. But even he seemed unsure if he could step into the storm now. The wives were watching him too, waiting to see if he would protect, deny, or simply stand silent. Janelle's tone was icy, cutting through the tension. Maybe isn't enough. Maybe never was enough. Actions speak louder than words, Robyn, and your actions betrayed the trust of everyone in this room. Robyn's shoulders shook violently. I didn't want to betray anyone. I loved you all. I was just trying to survive in a system I didn't fully understand. The courtroom was quiet for a long moment. The only sound was her ragged breathing. It was as though time had slowed, stretching every second, every word into a palpable tension that pressed down on everyone present. Then quietly, Mary spoke. I just can't believe we didn't see this coming, that we were blind to it all. Robyn's tears fell freely now. Her voice was hoarse, almost a whisper. I didn't want it to happen like this. I swear I didn't. The judge raised her hand. We will proceed to review supporting evidence in closed session. However, let this serve as a warning. Every action taken in secrecy has consequences that echo far beyond the person making the choice. The wives exchanged glances, heavy with suspicion, hurt, and disbelief. Cody remained still, almost as if the words didn't fully register. But deep down, everyone knew the truth had already been delivered. The secrets weren't hidden anymore. They were laid bare, for everyone to judge. And when the truth you've hidden for years comes to light, it doesn't just change the story, it changes the way everyone sees the world around them. The courtroom adjourned briefly for document verification, but the tension didn't dissipate. Robyn slumped in her chair, staring at the files that had defined her fear for so long. Christine's expression was unreadable, but her eyes followed Robyn like a hawk. Janelle's stare never wavered. Mary sat back, trembling, processing the reality that their family foundation had been shaken to its core. The whispered conversations that filled the room were all variations of the same thought. How could someone so trusted plan such secrecy, and for so long? Cody finally spoke to the attorney beside him. This can't just be swept under the rug. We need to prepare for what comes next. Robyn looked at him, eyes wide. What comes next? They hate me already. He shook his head slowly. No, they don't hate you yet. But if we don't handle this carefully, they will. The camera of reality TV may have been gone, but the glare of public scrutiny felt just as intense. And as the family exited the stand, whispers of shock and betrayal following every step, it was clear. The secret file wasn't just a revelation, it was a catalyst, one that would push the family to the brink of collapse. The courtroom doors closed behind the last of the spectators, and an almost tangible hush settled over the room. It was heavier this time, thicker, as if every secret from the Brown family's past had condensed into the very air, ready to suffocate anyone who dared to breathe too loudly. Robyn's hands were still shaking, but this time she wasn't hiding them beneath the table. She lifted them, knuckles white, eyes darting between Cody, Christine, Janelle, and Mary. She needed to see their faces to gauge the damage her secret had wrought. Christine didn't look at her. Her gaze was fixed on the judge, composed yet sharp as a scalpel, waiting for the next opportunity to cut to the truth. Janelle, on the other hand, leaned forward, elbows on the table, jaw tight, every fiber of her body exuding a readiness for battle. Mary's expression was fractured. Equal parts hurt, disbelief, and a quiet plea for answers that Robyn couldn't fully give. Cody sat beside Robyn like a shadow, silent, withdrawn, almost as if he had no energy left to argue, defend, or comfort. His eyes, however, betrayed a storm inside him, one that had been building since the first file was revealed earlier that morning. The judge cleared her throat. We will now proceed with direct testimony regarding the allegations and supporting documents presented. Mrs. Robyn Brown, please recount in your own words the events that led to the creation of this file. Robyn inhaled sharply. The room felt smaller than ever. Every sound amplified. The scratch of pens, the rustle of paper, the faint creak of a chair as someone adjusted their weight. She could feel the tension in the air pressing against her chest like a vice. I created the file because I was scared, she began, voice trembling, barely above a whisper. I didn't want to hurt anyone. I thought if I prepared, if I knew my options, maybe I could prevent more damage. To the kids, to the family, to everything. Her voice broke, tears spilling down her cheeks, and she clenched her fists on the edge of the witness stand. Janelle didn't move. Her eyes locked on Robyn with a piercing intensity. Prevent damage? She asked, her tone low but sharp enough to cut through the courtroom. Or manipulate the family in your favor while everyone else suffered? Robyn flinched. I didn't think like that. I never meant to. Christine leaned forward suddenly, voice icy. You did think like that. You planned this. You kept it secret. And you acted on it while pretending everything was fine. Robyn looked down, shaking. I thought I was protecting us all? I wasn't thinking about myself, not really. Her voice trailed off as she struggled to find the words. The judge raised a hand. Mrs. Brown, be specific. Did you ever intend to act on these documents in a way that would harm your co-wives or children? Robyn's hands trembled violently. Her voice, barely steady, whispered, No, I never intended to hurt anyone. I only wanted a way to survive, a way to keep my family together somehow. Mary's hand flew to her mouth and her eyes shimmered with tears. But your actions? They did hurt us, she said softly, voice breaking, even if you didn't mean to. Robyn's shoulders shook. I know it did. I can't take it back. Sometimes the most protective intentions end up becoming the sharpest betrayal. Cody finally leaned forward. His voice was low, almost hesitant. We all wanted the same thing, to protect the family, but we went about it in different ways. And now, here we are. The prosecutor stepped closer, flipping through several pages of the file. Mrs. Brown, there are emails, notes, and legal consultations included here that indicate you were considering independent custody and legal representation long before the separation. Were you planning to act without the knowledge of the family? Robyn's lips parted, her breath catching. I didn't want to. I thought I could figure things out before anyone got hurt. I wasn't planning to betray anyone. I thought. Christine's voice cut through sharply. You thought wrong. Every decision you made in secret has consequences, Robyn. The children, the family, all of us, we trusted you. Janelle's voice was cold. And yet, you kept it all hidden. You're standing here now, claiming love, claiming protection, but actions speak louder than words. Robyn shook her head violently, tears falling freely now. I was scared. I thought I was doing the right thing. I didn't want to lose them all. The courtroom fell into a stunned silence. The tension was unbearable. Every heart seemed to beat in sync with the truth unraveling in front of them. Every whisper of disbelief, every gasp, every shuffling footstep added to the growing weight pressing down on Robyn's chest. Fear can make people act in ways that haunt them for a lifetime. The judge finally spoke, calm but unyielding. We will examine these documents further in closed session. But Mrs. Brown, understand this. Secrets kept under the guise of protection have long-reaching consequences. Robyn nodded, trembling, unable to speak further. Cody reached out, placing a hand over hers, but she flinched, pulling back slightly. The contact, once comforting, now felt like an accusation. Across the room, Christine watched with a mixture of sorrow and satisfaction. She wasn't enjoying the pain unfolding before her, but she had waited years for this revelation. The truth, finally, was on the table. Mary whispered under her breath, still barely audible, "Why couldn't she trust us? Why keep all this hidden?" Robyn's voice shook as she replied, I didn't know how. I thought if I prepared, if I was ready, maybe I could prevent more pain." But the words rang hollow in the air. Actions already spoken louder than intentions. Janelle leaned back slightly, arms crossed, staring at Robyn like she was trying to read every unspoken thought. "You think this file can explain everything? It doesn't. It only shows that trust can't be bought with good intentions." Cody exhaled, rubbing his eyes. "We're all going to have to face this," he murmured. "All of us. Every truth, every secret, every choice. Because when the foundation of a family is shaken by hidden truths, even the strongest bonds tremble under the weight of revelation." The judge's gavel struck again. We will resume after a short break. During this time, the attorneys will review all supporting evidence and prepare for witness questioning. Robyn slumped in her chair, hands covering her face. She didn't cry for herself anymore. She cried for the family she felt she had failed. The family she loved more than she could ever articulate. And as she looked up at Cody, she silently pleaded for understanding, though she wasn't sure she deserved it. When the courtroom reconvened, the energy had shifted. The wives whispered to one another quietly, their expressions a mix of disbelief and anticipation. Every eye remained fixed on Robyn as she returned to the stand, bracing herself for the questions she knew would come. Christine's gaze never wavered. She didn't need words. Her eyes said it all. "I trusted you, and you broke that trust." Janelle's posture was rigid, unyielding. Mary's hands shook slightly as she gripped the edge of her chair. And Cody? Cody sat silently, weighing every moment, every word, every secret. Realizing that the family he had tried to keep intact was teetering on the edge of collapse. Robyn's voice came again, trembling. I just wanted to protect all of you. I didn't know there was another way." The judge leaned forward, gaze steady and commanding. "Mrs. Brown, intent is not always enough. The consequences of your actions and inactions will now be evaluated in this court." A hush fell over the room. The weight of Robyn's revelations had not yet fully settled. But one thing was clear. The family, already fractured, was now facing a truth that would test every bond, every promise, every connection they had left. And when a family's darkest secrets are finally revealed, nothing will ever be the same again. The session adjourned briefly, but the tension followed them like a shadow. Every whispered conversation was laden with speculation, accusation, and fear. Robyn stared at Cody, searching for some reassurance. He offered none, only a slow, mournful shake of his head. Mary looked at Robyn with a mixture of hurt and disbelief. Janelle's stare pierced her soul. Christine's expression remained unreadable, but the message was clear. The truth had been exposed, and now there was no turning back. Robyn knew that when they returned to court, the real questions would come. Not about her intentions, but about her accountability. And she understood, with a sinking heart, that no explanation, no tear, no plea would fully repair the damage done. The courtroom was silent, The kind of silence that feels heavy enough to crush anyone daring to breathe. Everyone had returned from recess, but the tension hadn't eased. It had thickened, expanded, filled every corner, every shadowed crease of the room. Robyn sat at the witness stand, hands trembling, eyes wide, bracing herself for the questions she knew would strip her bare. Cody sat beside her, shoulders hunched, jaw tight, eyes fixed on the table as if staring at it could somehow make the past disappear. Christine, sitting across from her, didn't move a muscle. She was calm, too calm, like a storm contained behind a glass wall. But the edges of her lips betrayed her restraint, a tight line that hinted at anger, hurt, and a readiness to pounce on any misstep. Janelle leaned forward, elbows on the table, eyes piercing Robyn with the kind of scrutiny that left no room for pretense. And Mary's hands shook slightly, her expression a mixture of disbelief and heartbreak, as though she were watching a woman she thought she knew vanish in real time. The judge adjusted her glasses and spoke, her voice firm and unwavering. We will now address additional evidence related to the Robyn Brown file. Mrs. Robyn Brown, please explain why certain communications and documents were withheld from the rest of the family and why they were preserved in secret for so many years. Robyn's throat felt tight. Her lips parted, then closed. Her mind raced. She wanted to scream, to beg for understanding. But the courtroom's weight pressed down, making every word feel inadequate. Finally, in a voice barely above a whisper, she spoke. I thought I was protecting everyone. I didn't know another way. I thought if I knew what I might need, maybe I could prevent more damage. Christine leaned forward suddenly, her voice icy, sharp as a knife. Protecting everyone? Or protecting yourself while hiding behind a veil of lies? Actions have consequences, Robyn. Your fear does not excuse betrayal. Robyn flinched, her hands gripping the edge of the stand, knuckles white. I wasn't betraying anyone, I swear. I loved all of you. Her voice broke, and tears spilled freely. Cody reached out, placing a hand over hers. But she pulled back instinctively, the contact feeling accusatory rather than comforting. Because sometimes, even the touch meant to heal can remind you of the fractures you're trying to hide. The prosecutor stepped closer, holding up a folder thick with notes and emails. Mrs. Brown, this evidence suggests you were consulting with attorneys regarding custody and family planning years before the separation. Did you intend to act independently of your co-wives? Robyn shook her head violently, voice trembling. No, I never intended to act without consulting anyone. I was scared of losing everything. I wanted to be prepared. Janelle's stare didn't waver. Prepared? Or controlling? Because it looks a lot like manipulation. The courtroom went silent. Even the judge leaned forward, letting the tension linger, savoring the weight of every accusation. Robyn's breath came in quick, uneven gasps. Every word she wanted to say collided with the harsh glare of scrutiny from the women she once called family. Fear can make even the most loving actions feel like weapons in the wrong hands. Christine stood abruptly. Do you understand, Robyn, that every note, every email, every plan you kept secret, each one of them was a choice? And every choice hurt us? Robyn buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking. I didn't know any other way. I wanted to protect everyone. I thought I was being careful. Mary's voice trembled, soft but cutting. Careful or selfish? Because the consequences have landed on all of us. We didn't deserve this. Any of this. Cody's eyes dropped to the table, jaw tight. He finally spoke, voice quiet, but heavy with guilt. We all thought we were protecting the family, but we were just protecting ourselves, in different ways. The judge held up a hand. Order. This session is not for accusations, but for truth. Mrs. Brown, please continue. Robyn straightened, wiping tears from her face. She inhaled deeply, gathering what strength remained. The file, the emails, the notes. I thought they were only for emergencies. I thought I could prevent disaster. I didn't realize that by keeping them secret, I was creating the very disaster I feared. Christine's eyes narrowed, voice low but cold. And yet, that disaster has been very real for all of us. Every day we trusted you, you were planning in secret. That is betrayal, Robyn, no matter your intentions. Robyn's head fell. She couldn't argue. She couldn't deny the truth. Every action she had taken, every plan she had created in isolation, had consequences too vast to undo. And now, the entire courtroom was aware. Sometimes, the truth doesn't just reveal what you did, it shows who you really are in the process. The prosecutor flipped another page from the file. These documents also include private notes indicating an intention to involve legal counsel in ways that would affect the children's future. Were you planning to act without consent or knowledge from your co-wives? Robyn's hand shook violently as she gripped the stand. I thought I was protecting the kids. I didn't want them caught in conflict. I thought if I planned carefully, if I knew what to do, I could save them from harm. Janelle's voice was sharp. And did you consider how your secrecy might harm them emotionally? That trust is not just about adults, Robyn. It's about what they feel, what they see, what they learn about love, family, and honesty. Robyn's eyes brimmed with tears. I know now. I see that. I never intended for it to hurt anyone. Christine leaned forward, voice cold as steel. You just acted alone. And now we all have to live with the consequences. That is the reality. When intentions collide with secrecy, the fallout is unpredictable and often devastating. Cody's voice broke the tension slightly, soft but authoritative. We all have made mistakes. We all have acted out of fear. But secrets, Robyn, they amplify mistakes into disasters. Robyn looked at him pleading. I thought I was protecting everyone. I didn't realize it would hurt all of you this badly. Mary's voice was barely audible, trembling. Do you even understand how much damage has been done? How much trust has been lost? Robyn swallowed hard, tears flowing freely. I understand now. I see it. I am so sorry. The judge leaned forward, her voice calm but firm. Mrs. Brown, remorse is acknowledged, but we are here to assess responsibility. Every choice, every action, every decision, intentional or not, has consequences. You must be held accountable for the effects of your secrecy. Robyn's shoulders sagged, the weight of the truth pressing down on her like a tidal wave. She had no defense, no excuse. Only the realization that her fear-driven plans had fractured the family she had tried so desperately to protect. Christine's voice softened slightly, almost inaudible, but filled with undeniable emotion. We all love this family. But love isn't enough when trust is broken. Not by intention, not by fear, not by secrecy. Love alone cannot repair the damage done. The room fell silent. Robyn's tears fell freely now. Cody sat quietly, watching, understanding in his eyes that this confrontation was only the beginning. Mary's gaze was locked on Robyn, a mixture of sorrow and disbelief, and Janelle's unwavering stare was a silent reminder. The truth had consequences that could not be undone. The judge's gavel struck sharply. Court is adjourned until tomorrow, when we will continue to evaluate the ramifications of these documents and testimonies. Be aware that every statement made here will influence future decisions regarding custody, family responsibilities, and reconciliation. As the crowd filed out, the wives remained seated, absorbing the emotional aftermath. Robyn sat, trembling, hands clutched together, heart racing. She had survived the exposure of her secret, but the real challenge was only beginning. The emotional reckoning with the wives, and the consequences that would extend far beyond the courtroom walls. Cody finally leaned closer, whispering, "Tomorrow, it all continues, and we'll see what can survive the truth." Robyn's eyes were wide, haunted. "Will anything survive?" she whispered back.